You, my friends, are following in the very footsteps of history. Something beyond the power of words to describe. Human beings simply aren't built to function at the cruising altitude of a 747. Our bodies will be literally dying. Everest is another beast altogether.
How you doing? I'm back.
Doug Hansen.
What do you do when you're not climbing, Doug?
I deliver the mail.
First mailman on Everest?
Hope so.
I like that.
Sit down, man. Climatize.
How's the weather?
It's good.
I wish I was with you.
One day, you, me, and that little Sarah will all go climbing together.
So today's the day, huh?
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greeting to all. In this video, my team and I will make an explanation of one of the movie that we think is very good and very benefits to watch with our friends and family. So, the title of this movie is The Everest. The film was released in 2015. The film was directed by Bashar. This genre of film is about an adventure. So, before we start our explanation, we hope you all like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Oh, and don't forget to comment on this video. Alright, in that case, let's go. In May 1996, several commercial expeditions at the base camp of Mount Everest prepared to climb the summit. Rob Hall, who popularized commercial Everest missions, leads adventure consultants Scott Fisher is the chief guide for its rivals, Mountain Madness. Rob's clients include backwatters and experienced climber, Doug Hansen, a former mailman pursuing his dream, climbing veteran Yasuko Namba, who hopes to complete her final 7 summit ascent, and outside magazine journalist John Cracker. Helen Wilton managed Rob's base camp. A month earlier in New Zealand, Rob says goodbye to his pregnant wife, Jane, and promises that he will be home for the birth. At the base camp, Rob receives a text from her, informing him that their unborn baby is a girl. He wants to name her Sarah, but Jane disagrees.
Worried about climbers' crowdings, Rob pressured Scott to cooperate to the reduced delays. On the summit attempts, Rob's groups depart from camp before dawn, planning to complete the ascent and begin descending by 2 p.m. The latest safe time to ensure return before nightfall. The groups delayed by over an hour after discovering that guards ropes are not installed on the upper reaches of the climbs. Beck has eyesight problem and stopped. Ropes tell him to return the base camp if his condition does not improve in a half hour. Scott hurries down to camp to help another climber, but plans to re-ascend. Ropes warn him about over-exertion.
Rob reaches the summit on time and is joined by other climbers including Yasuko, who jubilantly plants her Japanese flag. Descending, Rob encounters Doug struggling to ascend just above the Hillary step and orders him to descend. Doug insists on continuing, saying that he will not get the chance again. Rob reluctantly agrees and they reach the summit 2 hours later, well past the safe return time. Doug is exhausted and suffering from altitude sickness. With them is Scott, exhausted and ill from high altitude pulmonary edema. As Rob helps Doug descend, a blizzard strikes while Doug's oxygen tank is empty, causing him to suffer hypoxia. No extra bottles are stored on the road as Rob asks, and he radios Helen to send some oxygen. Dogs left reply by Rob semi-consciously detached himself from the guard rope and walks unsteadily along the narrow path, then silently topless to his death.
Scott's condition worsens. He tells his fellow climbers to continue descending without him. He lies down and later dies. Descending climbers reach back whose vision remains inspired. But they all become lost as the blizzard obliterates the trail. 3 climbers go for help, leaving Beck and Yasuko. God Andy, Harold, Harris Richards rope with spare oxygen, but the cylinder aperture is frozen shut. They huddle together in the storm. While Rob sleeps, Andy begins to have hallucinations. He then strips off his outer clothing and slides to his death. In the morning, Rob radio Helen died, Dog and Andy are gone, and that his extremities are frozen. Helen called Jen, hoping that Rob will respond to her voice. Jen tells Rob that he must start moving. Rob tells her that he is cold but comfortable, and asks to her name their baby Sarah, dying soon afterward.
Returning climbers tell the camp that Beck and Yasuko are stranded. The weather, however, makes a rescue impossible. Helen calls Beck's wife, Peach, and informs her of the situation. In the mornings, Beck miraculously awakens, sees that Yasuko is dead, and stumbles down to the camp alone. Suddenly, frostbitten and in need of medical help. Peach called the American embassy and organizes a helicopter rescue to take back to the hospital. Meanwhile, one of Scott's guards, Anatoly, finds his body and moves it off the trail. Returning home, Helen has an emotional reunion with Jen, who later gives birth successfully and names her daughter Sarah. Bex returns to his family, heavily bandaged. Closing Titus reveals that he lost both hands and nose to frostbite, and that Rob's body remains on Everest.
The first inspiration that I get in this movie is that it makes me to keep trying in life despite many obstacles in my life. Because this movie shows that although there are many obstacles they have to face, but that is not a barrier for them to achieve their dream of reaching the Mount Everest.
Next, this movie also inspired me to respect each other despite different skin, race and country, because in this movie, a character like Yasuko from Japan is also respected by professional and amateur climbers from European countries.
Another thing that inspired me is not to give up on the dream that we want to play, because the character like Doug that is seen is quiet, tired, trying to achieve his dreams to reach the summit of Mount Everest.
Finally, this movie also inspired me to build a family that cares for each other, because in this movie shows that even though Rob is always calling his wife, who is worried about him, because Rob is on duty to bring his client to climb the summit of Mount Everest and brought home safely.
There are some moral values that contained in this movie. Among them is to help each other. It's because Mike helps back others whose his vision is affected due to the effect of the surgical operation that he did first. By helping him go down the Everest mountain and return to the camp safely. This case is related to Islam because our Prophet Muhammad SAW taught us to help each other. Asking for help or ta'awun is a necessity of human life that cannot be denied. Facts prove that a job or anything that requires another party, of course, cannot be done alone, even though he is someone who has the ability and knowledge about it. This shows that helping each other is a necessity in human life. As said by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Anna Abdullah bin Umar radhiyallahu anhuma akhbarahu anna Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam qala al-muslimu akhuhul muslimi la yaslimuhu wa la yuslimuhu wa man kana fi hajati akhihi kana Allah fi hajatihi wa man farraja an muslimu kurbatan farradallahu anhu kurbatan min kurbati yaumal qiyamah wa man satara musliman satarallahu yaumal qiyamah. Riwayat Bukhari. That Abdullah bin Umar radhiyallahu anhum reported that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, one Muslim is another Muslim brother. Therefore, he shall not abuse and silence him. Whoever pays attention to the interests of his brother, Allah will pay attention to his interests. Whoever helps the difficulties of a Muslim, Allah will help him from some of his difficulties later on the day of judgment. And whoever covers a Muslim, Allah will cover him on the day of resurrection. Bukhari narrative hadith.
The next moral value is tolerance in this case because even though rope is tied to the top and heading back to the camp, he sees dog still went to reach the top even though he is left behind. So Rob is very sad to see the condition of dog that trying to climb the top. So Rob went to accompany dog until they managed to reach the top. The situation can be linked in Surah Al-Ma'idah, second sentence, and let you help one another to do good and be pious, and do not help one another in committing sins and aggression.
In addition, love is also one of the moral value that content is this movie. For example, Peacekeeper emotionally motivated to Rob, who was stranded at the top due to running out of oxygen, so that Rob continues to try to descend the mountain to continue life. This can be linked hadith. He said again, a person is in the way of life of his friend, so look at each of you who is with them. Hadith narrated by Tirmizi and Abu Dawud. Remain a friend's mistake over the truth.
And the last moral values is to be responsible. This can be seen when Rob and Scott as professional climbers are very responsible in carrying out their tasks to bring the amateur climber to the summit of Mount Everest and bring them home safely. This actor has something to do with Islam because responsibility is an action in which a believer bears. What has been said and done, this attitude of responsibility is centrally very important for life in the world, whether in terms of worship or social relation. Without a sense of responsibility, of course, life will fall apart. As in Surah Al-An'am verse 18, until one day the entourage of the Prophet Sulaiman reached the valley of ants, say an ant, enter your nest, so that you are not trampled by Sulaiman and his army. While they do not release the above verse discusses and that cries out to its friends to take refuge from danger. This verse teaches us about the attitude of responsibility toward fellow human beings to remind each other in goodness and safety.
In conclusion, the thing that I get in this movie as a student is that we cannot break the foundation despite the many obstacles we have to overcome. For an example, if we fail in an exam, it does not show that we failed in life, but it shows that we need to work more persistent so that the failure is a reason for us to succeed in the future. As in this movie, Doe shows us that although he failed to reach the summit of the Mount Everest in previous year, it is not a barrier for him to try again in the year next until he managed to reach the peak, even if it risks his life too. With that, we as a student need to persevere and continue to work in the pursuit of the dream we want to achieve in the future.